the New York metro area's most eclectic radio station. You're listening to WFDU Teaneck.
89.1.
They're playing basketball. We love that basketball.
Welcome back to my team of listeners out there in radio land. It is the Greg Herenda Show. And we had a show going on the other night at the Rothman Center. It started out, our guest MC was none other than our Ken. How did that happen, Kenny? I walk out, first exhibition game, just trying to get my feet underneath me, and I turn and I look at the scores table, and there you are sitting there smiling after not coming to practice. Now the lights are on, you have your makeup on, and you're the. How did you MC our game?
No makeup, Coach.
But you were terrific.
Thank you, man. I mean, I do that quite a bit. I got there. Chris Strock, the
Yep.
SID, asked me if I wanted to do it. I just came because I'm tired of you giving me stuff
right.
for not coming to practice. I wanted to have something to talk to you about today regarding the show.
And
so,
what are your initial thoughts?
what are my initial thoughts?
He hesitated. Okay.
Well, I didn't know.
He's already. You're gonna kill me right now on it. This is good when you can kill a coach live instead of waiting for the coach to hang up and then kill me right now.
Well, I actually was very entertained by you. I finally got to see the Stomp live and in person. You
Right.
definitely had the Stomp in full effect. I thought there was a lot of fouls called.
Right.
I don't know. I kind of wanted to ask you whether you thought the referees were a little whistle happy, or did you actually think there were that many fouls being committed?
Well, I don't want to get fined by the commissioner of the Northeast Conference, so I will not comment on the
Okay.
referee. No, the referees. It was an exhibition game, so the referees are getting out. They're blowing the whistle for the first time. Our players, we fouled too much historically. Our guys play very hard. We're aggressive, and we had Mustafa had 4 fouls. Xavier Harris had 4 fouls, and Matt McDonald had 4 fouls. So we were undermanned, and we just, we had a very, very good basketball team come in and play excellent basketball against us. We're going to do a show next week about Division II basketball. We're going to have John Beeline from Michigan and Mike Donnelly, the head basketball coach at Southern Connecticut, to talk about just the greatness of Division II basketball. And Dave DeFerrara did a great job, and thank God Mustafa Jones stepped up late, and we went right to 14 seconds to go. And we drew it up, but Mustafa completed the play, and we call it Sacramento. It's a long story why we call it Sacramento, but it is that. And Mustafa Jones hit a 3, and that place was jumping when he made the 3. Yes or no?
Absolutely. I think I might have shouted 3 ball for about 20 seconds and then stretched out Mustafa Jones for another 20 seconds. That might have been the longest 3-point call of my career.
And then the next thing I know, Grant Billmeyer, my assistant, who's like 6'10", and I don't know, one of his legs weighs about as much as my son. He's a huge man. He's running on the floor trying to get our players back. So it went from just an exhibition game to a full-fledged, barn burner at the buzzer. We made a shot with 3. They got a shot up at the buzzer that would have beaten us, but it was a bad shot, and we contested it well. And I think for us, Kenny, it was just a good night, and the reason we did it to get our young players in a uniform on the floor with a crowd.
You had the full media timeouts.
It was a really, really good, and we won, but now in practice, we can get back to work and say, okay, guys, we're not, as good as we think at this moment. But I really like our team. We're very young. We're quick. We're athletic. When we put all our parts and we get everybody healthy and on the floor, we're going to be a very, very difficult team to beat in that building. I sense a synergy between our students and our athletes that when we promote it, and Sean Morrison, has he left the planet?
I saw him at the game. He was there.
Oh, no, he was at the game. Okay, but anyway, but Sean Morrison does a great job of promoting and marketing. We need to get people in that building. And when that building is full and the new bleachers with the nights on it, I mean, the place looks...
Yeah, great arena-type atmosphere.
David Langford really and our athletic department and everybody has helped change the image of how the building looks, and now we need to fill the building. And there are 2 players I've got a little bit of beef with right now, and they're arguably the 2 greatest players in the world. Combined, as of this taping, have 1 win. Their names are LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Now, the NBA season's been going on now for over close to a week and a half, 2 weeks. I tell our players all the time, it's really not about the talent. It's what you do with the talent and how hard you work. And I'm not really questioning how hard LeBron works or Kobe, but you've got to work together, And right now, both of those guys have one win combined. I think the over and under in Vegas on the Lakers, is it 15 or 20? I don't see them winning games. Can you trade Kobe Bryant? I don't know enough about trades and money and what have you, but at some point, Kobe doesn't want to go out winning 25 games to end his career, I don't think.
You got to think, how important is it to retire as a Los Angeles Laker? Not many players have done that. You recently had Derek Jeter in baseball retiring as a Yankee. To be with one team right out of high school all the way throughout your career, does that mean a lot to him?
You know what you don't want to do? You don't want to retire a loser.
Yeah.
I'd rather retire a winner than a Laker. And right now, I don't, God bless Jerry Buss, but I don't know who's running the ship now. I don't know. Byron Scott has got to be it's really important. Like right now, you look at Steve Kerr and how smart a move he made, whether it was by design or not. Steve Kerr was tapped to be the Knicks coach. Instead, he waits and he gets Golden State, and that team is absolutely terrific to coach. And the NBA, it's changing, man. It changes really, really quickly. I think, everyone got a little bit excited about the Knicks, but the Knicks, that's going to be a process. But I think right now the winner in NBA basketball right now across the board is Steve Kerr. He's coaching a great, great basketball team. Doesn't have all the pressure. He's got a huge support. The people in San Francisco, in the Bay State area, absolutely love the Golden State Warriors. So it's you know what? The time is near. Our season is upon us. The exhibition season is over, and we're off to St. Joe's next week. But right now, on deck, we've got one of Jersey's legends. We miss you, PJ. You got to come back. We need you in college basketball. We need you in the state of New Jersey. We're going to have PJ Carlesimo on as our next guest on the Greg Herenda Show.
The Greg Herenda Show on WFDU FM is brought to you by Janney Montgomery & Scott, trusted financial advisors. For more information, go to Janney.com. That's JANNEY.com.
This is Jay Wright, head coach of the Villanova Wildcats, and if I'm not watching film or watching Villanova basketball, I'm definitely listening to the Greg Herenda Radio Show.
Welcome back to our team of listeners in Radioland. We are very, very lucky to have somebody that we miss. PJ, I know Seton Hall misses you, New Jersey misses you, Bruce Hamburger misses you, and I want to welcome you back to the airwaves at WFDU. Welcome, PJ Carlesimo, to the Greg Herenda Show.
Hey, Greg, thank you. It's good to be with you. I have obviously great memories of Jersey. Not as great in the old gym in Rutherford.
Yep.
Going over to play Coach LaBalbo's teams in the old gym. That wasn't as much fun, but great feelings for FDU, and I know you guys are going to continue to get things turned around.
I appreciate that. So, PJ, where were you when you went against Coach LaBalbo? You weren't at Seton Hall, were you?
No, I was at Wagner.
Wow.
Back from 76 to 82. I can't remember, but I know I do remember going into that gym on more than one occasion.
Wow.
It probably didn't come out on the right side either.
Well, he was obviously a legend here. You were a legend at Seton Hall. And when you hear the One Shining Moment piece that we came on with you, what kind of memories come back, PJ, to Seattle, to to Robin Cunningham, Larry Keating, and all the great ones, and Bruce Hamburger.
You said it. There's tremendous memories of my time at Seton Hall. It wasn't, similar situation to what you're starting with now. It was a rebuilding situation. We first got there. It took a lot of hard work, and Bruce Hamburger and the assistants, John Carroll, Mike Brown, Rod Baker, those guys did the work. They got us players, and then it just took a little time for the players to get some experience, and the wins took care of themselves after that. But what was great was the people you talked about, having an academic advisor like Robin or an athletic director like Larry Keating and Richie Regan. I had people behind me that understood the things we had to do to compete successfully in the Big East Conference, and you need that if you're going to have a successful program.
PJ, let me take you back, and the people that know college basketball know the deal, and we try to give our fans and our listeners the inside scoop. Like 2 or 3 years prior to that Seattle run, PJ Carlesimo wasn't the warm and fuzzy guy that everybody remembers you now. What was it like, Paige, when people were coming after you, questioning what you were doing, were you going to win, were you going to get let go? I mean, I know that was all part of the reality. How do you feel when you're in that bubble in the metropolitan area? How was that going through it prior to going to Seattle?
Well, it's never fun, Greg. As you well know. But it's difficult, and you have to maintain perspective. I think growing up in an athletic family. Of course, my father was an athletic director for a long time, and football coach, and then the executive director of the NIT. I think I had a perspective that helped me. It was harder on the family. I wasn't married at that time, but my parents, my brothers, and my sisters. It's easy for an individual, I think, to just say, to understand. Hey, I know a lot of times the same people that were being critical or killing you at one time, they're the same people that are patting you on the back a couple of years later, or same thing, with the media. And I'm a member of the media now, but I got to say, if you get too pumped up when people write nice things about you,
get ready.
You got to realize those same people, when you're not as lucky, they're going to write different things about you. So I just think you had to maintain the perspective. What we talked about earlier, working for the kind of people I worked for, from our presidents and chancellors, John Patillo, Monsignor Liddy, all the people that we had, from that support on down, particularly with Larry and Richie Regan in the athletic department, that allowed you to keep a perspective and keep your head up and say, hey, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. But it all came down, as you well know, for your many years with George Blaney, and now moving over on the other seats as you have. It comes down to the assistants and the job they do and the kind of players they help you to attract to a school. When you get players, everything falls in place.
PJ, talking about players, just give me your top 2 or 3, maybe not the best producers numbers-wise, or maybe the best producers, favorite players at Seton Hall, going backwards and just going down memory lane here a little bit.
It's hard. The first one is easy. Mark Bryant, because Mark Bryant's the one who turned our program around.
That's right.
If we don't get Mark from Columbia High School right in our backyard there in Maplewood, and he wanted to stay home because he was so close with his family, and that's really the primary reason we got him. Mike Brown and our coaches did a great job recruiting him, but we were fortunate. Mark didn't want to go away, and when he decided to stay, that opened up doors for a lot of other all-state players in Jersey, guys like Anthony Avent and Franz Volsi, and a lot of first-team New York, all-city players, PSAL and CHSA,
John Morton.
Gerald Green and John Morton and Darrell Walker. So and Mark's the guy who turned it around, and Mark's junior year, we got to the NIT, which is the first time we'd been in a postseason tournament in a long time, and then in Mark's senior year, 88, we got to the NCAAs for the first time in the school's history. So he set the table. That group that we just talked about, the 3 New York kids, and Ramon Ramos from Puerto Rico, one of our favorite guys, and of course had the horrible automobile accident, and Terry DeHare broke every Big East record.
Tell me about Terry. What was it? I think George was recruiting Terry at Holy Cross. Who'd you beat out to get Terry DeHare?
Well, people didn't realize. No, Buddy Hurley knew. People didn't realize. Getting Danny Hurley and Terry DeHare and Jerry Walker. You talk about one of your favorite players. I mean, that's the ultimate warrior right there. But Terry DeHare, obviously living in Jersey and recruiting, and we were at White Eagle Hall and saw St. Anthony's play so many times over the years. I thought Terry was going to be a very good player. I'd be lying if I told you he was good. Break every Big East scoring record and be arguably one of, if if not the best player to ever play at Seton Hall. I knew he'd be very good. Bob Hurley knew. He said, he knew he was going to be even better than that. So I got to give Bob and our assistant coaches a lot of credit. But again, even when the '89 team was a great team, obviously getting to the Final Four, but we didn't win a Big East championship. We didn't win a Big East tournament. Terry and those guys won both in the same year. We won the regular season Big East, and then we won the Big East tournament, which is hard to do. And to win those two, we won 2 tournaments and we won 2 regular season championships over the time. And it was that other group that did it for us. So it was a special time.
Going back to Seattle, I was in Seattle. I was a young assistant at that time, and as we all know, the NABC convention goes on. I remember being in Seattle the night you guys were playing, and do you know Brother from Big E's in Hoboken, PJ?
Sure.
I was walking down the street in Seattle, Washington, and Brother from Big E's in Hoboken was there, and I'm like, wow, this is like New Jersey. It was euphoric. I was just so proud to be. I didn't go to Seton Hall, and at that point, I didn't coach there, but I was just proud to be, on that national stage, and the way you handled the whole Clockerty, the final call, and throughout the whole process, and Bruce was on that bench with you. Just, you have to walk me back through that night, that game, and what kind of feelings you had prior to the game, during, and then after, losing on a really tough call, but representing Seton Hall in New Jersey in an unbelievable fashion.
Greg, it was. I always said that nobody goes to the Final Four without enjoying it. Obviously, it's special, even for a team like Duke that seems to go there every year. But I always believe that no school enjoyed a Final Four more than Seton Hall, and not just the alums, not just the students. As you said, the people in Jersey, the people in the metropolitan area. I really don't think there's been any school that ever enjoyed that Final Four experience more than our fans did, and the people in the New Jersey area in particular. But that team was such a good team. It was a team you didn't worry about crazy things. You didn't worry about them breaking curfew or doing stupid things or not coming into practice. We had I think we had 9 seniors on that team, and it was just a very relaxed, composed group. And I remember the shoot around that morning. We live in Seattle now, ironically. We've been there for 8 years, but I remember the shoot around that morning at Seattle University, and we even practiced that full court pass, the end game pass that we ended up having to try and convert at the end to Darryl Walker. But I wasn't worried about how we were going to play. The one time that team was nervous in the NCAAs was the first half of the Duke game. We fell behind. People forget, but we fell behind by 18 points to Duke. We were down 26-8 in the first half, and it was because of the stage, playing in front of whatever it was, 50,000 people in the King Dome, and it was the only time all year that I thought our team was a little bit rattled, and they settled down. We had I think the second time out, and they just started digging their way out of the hole.
What was the half
of the year?
PJ, excuse me for interrupting. What was the halftime score when you guys
were down? I'm saying maybe we were down 6, but we were
so
back
you got
in the
back
game.
in it.
No. By halftime, we felt good. I'm not saying Duke was scared, but by halftime, we were back in the game. We knew it was going to be a game, and then it just completely flipped in the second half. We just, if you look at the score, it's a one-sided score in our favor, but it was a much better game than that, and that kind of typified that team.
Exactly.
They just, once they settled down, they grounded out. Danny Ferry was the player of the year in college basketball. Darryl Walker was doing a great job guarding him. Danny was making every shot he took, and he finally, we just wore him down. That was the thing about our team. Everybody, you talk about the starters, Gerald Green and Morton with Andrew Gaze and Ramos and Walker, but we had, coming off the bench, we had Pookie Wigington, Michael Cooper, Nick Katsikas, Franz Volsey, Anthony Avent. Our second team was a really good team.
Exactly.
So, we could wear people down, and we could beat them up inside. It was unusual in college. They weren't 7-footers, but Ramos, Walker, Volsey, and Avent were big college players. They were physical. They rebounded. They defended. So, we just, we beat some people up, and that's what we did to Duke. Robert Brickey got hurt, and we just wore him down, and then we had that great game with Michigan. And the reason, one of the reasons I think our players handled it so well because we played well. It was one of those games that it was over, and it was a classic game. It was a 1-point game in overtime, and we just kind of felt, hey, we played well. They played well. It kind of came down to who had the ball last or who got the last call, and that's the way it was decided.
You know what?
So it was hard to feel bad or second guess the experience.
Well, you've been a gentleman and a professional all throughout that situation, but that was, I think, even in losing, you showed what kind of a champion you are. Now you go to the NBA, and now it seems like, PJ, when I watch you, and we haven't interacted or spoken in a few years, it seems like you are just in love with the NBA. Give me the reasons why you love it so much, and comparatively to how much you loved NCAA basketball. Could you do that first?
Sure. I coached in college for 23 years, Greg. I loved every day of it. I never dreamt or aspired to work in the NBA. It was just, it's funny how things come around after you talk about Seth Greenberg. Right. Brad Greenberg was the assistant GM at Portland. Sure. Calls me up. I'm doing a clinic in Italy at the time. Mike D'Antoni and I are staying in the same hotel in Treviso, Italy.
So you had an offensive coach in that room and a defensive coach.
Well, Mike's being introduced as the new head coach. He moved from Milan to Benetton Treviso. Sure. And I'm doing a clinic for the Italian Coaches Association. And Brad said, would you like to come out and interview for the Portland job? And I'm going, Brad, and he goes, I think in retrospect, Paul Allen had in his mind, the owner, that he wanted to hire a college coach and probably couldn't get Larry Brown. I think at that time was either at Kansas or UCLA. Sure. And I think Paul had a profile in mind. So I went out for the interview. I talked to Larry Keating, talked to the people at Seton Hall. I said, look, I'm going out. I'm not going to get the job, but it's a good experience. Mark Bryant was playing in Portland. I had a real strong feeling for the city of Portland because Nike was headquartered there. I'd been with Nike my whole coaching career, so I'd spent a lot of time in Portland. Yep. Ramon, they had taken great care of Ramon after his accident. Sure. Mark Bryant was still playing for the Blazers. So I went out, and in the middle of the interview, Paul Allen offers me the job, and I almost fell off the chair. I was watching the Knicks. The Knicks were playing Houston in the NBA Finals. It was
that's the O.J. Simpson year, wasn't it? Yeah,
exactly right. Yep. I don't remember what game it was, but we're sitting in the theater in Paul's home, which is ironically in Seattle. He lives on Mercer Island. Sure. And in the middle of the interview, he offers me the job, and I start stuttering and stammering and going, Paul, I got to go back. I'm not going to work for you for 12 years and then take a job somewhere and come back and tell you. I got to go back and talk to the people at Seton Hall, and I tell you, I really agonized over it. But it was a tremendous financial opportunity, and they were a very good team. They still had Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Buck
PJ,
Williams.
Were you offered Kentucky, or was that?
That was in '89. That was right after the Final Four, and again, that was another one that C.M. Newton, the AD, former basketball coach at Alabama, was a close friend. And it was I shouldn't have gone down to Kentucky to visit because I didn't want to go. I wasn't interested. Right. And I made the mistake of going down there. And then it was kind of got crazy because, people like, from Bobby Knight to Dave Gavitt to John Thompson, close friends in the profession said to me, well, you're out of your mind. You got to go. It's like the ultimate job in college basketball. If you want to win a national championship, you have to take this job. And I really, Seton Hall had been so good, and what we talked about before, it stuck by me and our coaches over the years, and we were all conscious. You talk about that Seattle experience. We were all at least the coaches that had been with us, Bruce and John Carroll and Rod, and we knew that it very easily could have been a different coaching staff with that team, but that the Hall had stayed with us, and it just was. I just couldn't leave Seton Hall at that point, and frankly, I loved living in the metropolitan area. I loved where I was, and I just said, hey, this Kentucky's not the right place for me. And it's funny because I came back and had dinner with Rick Pitino, who was coaching the Knicks at the time, and like a couple weeks later, they get really the guy that was the perfect guy for Kentucky, which was Rick Pitino.
Exactly. Well, you know what? We miss you, PJ. And I know you miss Bella Italia.
Oh, do I ever? Sal Granada's my man.
Star Tavern.
Anytime I'm back, I want to be there. Augustino's,
Il Molino.
all those places.
Hey, do me a favor. The next time you're back, me and Bruce will take you out. And I'd love to
take
just
you guys out. I'd love to, Greg. And it was great being. I want to see you guys start to get it turned around.
Come back.
Really pulling for you.
Come to a practice. Come to the live studio. Let's go eat. And we miss you, PJ, back in Jersey. And we wish you all the best with ESPN. Thank you for being on the show. And we're going to send you out with the Seton Hall fight song, my man.
All right, Greg. I appreciate it.
You got it.
With you. Thank you.
All right, brother. That was PJ Carlesimo. Bruce Hamburg is now the commissioner of New Jersey basketball. PJ was the general when he was here. That was great stuff, Kenny.
Absolutely fantastic.
We will be back with more of the Greg Herenda Show.
Good morning. It's time for your FDU Night schedule update. Who will you be following today? FDU Volleyball hosts Sacred Heart at the Rothman Center at 3 p.m. for an NEC matchup. Today is day 2 of the FDU women's bowling team's NEC meet in Wallingford, Connecticut. FDU fencing competes at the Vassar Invitational in Poughkeepsie, New York. And finally, today is senior day for men's soccer. The Knights host Sacred Heart at University Stadium at 5 p.m. For the rest of the week, both FDU men's basketball team and women's basketball team tip off the regular season on November 14th. Men's basketball travels to St. Joseph's for a 7 p.m. tip-off in Philadelphia, while women's basketball starts their season against Manhattan College and Riverdale in New York at 7 p.m. Also on November 14th, FDU fencing competes at the Columbia Invitational, and both men's and women's cross-country will compete the NCAA Mid-Atlantic Regional at Penn State. Wrapping up your week, women's volleyball hosts CCSU at the Rothman Center on November 15th at 1 p.m. Stay tuned to FDUNights.com for all updates, videos, and stats for Coach Herenda's Knights and all FDU athletics. I am Corbin Gapsky from WFDU with your FDU Knights schedule update.
Hey, I'm Rick Pitino, the head coach at the University of Louisville. When I'm not coaching the Cardinals, I'm listening to the Greg Herenda Show.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
Welcome back to the Greg Herenda Show. PJ, baby. I miss those days. I miss Louis Carnesecca, John Thompson. Now, I miss Jim Calhoun already. But guess what? Get on the bus, Gus. We're going down to Philly. That's what's going on. We're going to the hometown of Mustafa Jones, the hometown of Xavier Harris, the hometown of Scooter Gillette. We're going to Philadelphia to take on the Hawks of St. Joe's, Kenny. Last year, they won the Atlantic 10 championship. They're going to be hanging the banners on Friday night when the Knights come marching in.
And that actually brings us right to our question of the week.
That's right.
It's a very good question from Johnny in Pearl River. So here's the question, Coach.
Yep.
Since you have been head coach, you have played very challenging non-conference teams. See?
Amen.
Told you.
No,
Perfect. How important do you think it is in terms of building a successful team and program?
I've said it before. I just think the schedule of your opponents tells a lot about where your program is going. And we want to play at a high. Last year we played Arizona. We played Iowa. This year we're going to St. Joe's. We're going back to Rutgers where we won. And I think they're going to want us. We're going to St. John's, and that's always a tough. When you go into Queens, it's nothing's ever easy. We're going to South Bend, Indiana. So, Johnny, I think you hit it on the head. What it does, it tells not only our fans, but also our recruits that we're going to play at a high level of basketball and not back down, and it's going to prepare us for Northeast Conference championship play. And our goal this year, we got to the conference tournament. Now we've got to get a home game. That's how you get to the NCAA tournament. So we can have this morning we had a very spirited, good practice, but it's November. In March, we've got to win 3 games, Kenny. And if you can get your first game at home, now you put yourself in a position. If you get your first 2 games at home, and that's our goal, is to get to the NCAA tournament. And the way we do that, we're not going to get an at-large bid. We need to win a championship, and that's been my goal since I've stepped foot on this campus. We've got a lot of work to do to get there. But the work has started, and that's a great question. So Johnny I believe he gets 2 tickets.
That's right.
Now Pearl River is in New York, is it not?
That's correct.
But it's not that far from here, so
no.
we gotta reach out and get some fans. I like that.
Very close by.
We have our first non-New Jersey question, and Johnny, I appreciate that. We'll get you 2 tickets to an upcoming FDU night basketball game. Right now, we're out of time. We got to go back to work. We got to make sure that the Knights are on time, 7 p.m. at St. Joe. If you're from Philly, it's St. Joe. If you're not, it's St. Joe's. Get on the bus, take the train, wear your burgundy and blue, and be ready to shock the world. We are officially out. Peace.
In Lava Land, there's a one-man band, and he'll toot